Hey guys, welcome to Musings of Maverick, where I'm your host Maverick, and today we're going to be continuing our rewatch of Bandori Season 1 with Episode 12. So, now that Season 2 has dropped, it's been harder for me to get back into this series, but since I already started it, I figured that I want to finish it anyways. But definitely next time I will try to complete a rewatch like this before the new season drops. Otherwise, it's kind of weird in a way. But in any case, last episode we finished up the arc where Kasumi lost her voice, and now we're going into the final stages of this first season. So they're going to audition, they're going to have a performance, and then we also have the OVA, the beach episode. So, without further ado, let us continue the rewatch and begin in 3, 2, 1, play. In case there's any people who are not as familiar with Japanese culture or stereotypes, the reason they specifically comment here is because ramen shops are typically mainly frequented by men, and especially men who are already out and working, so not students. Uh, whether it's mature or not is one thing, but it's definitely a male dominated place. Now, in recent years, this trend has kind of balanced itself, so more and more women or even young girls are going to ramen shops, but still, there's a big stereotype here. I think the interaction between Arisa and the student council president is definitely something that I wish they would expand a little bit more on. It's obvious that the student council president Nana is somebody who Arisa really looks up to. I guess both as a person and in keyboard playing. All right, let me skip this and begin. So starting to do some training. The funny thing here is that it actually also kind of reflects their conditioning in real life as well. I do believe that Tai's voice actor Sai is also the most athletic out of all of them. Although Heigo, the voice actor for Saya, I think might be better than Kasumi's voice actor Aimi. Let's just take the bath together. Why is it embarrassing? I would love to have been called by our band name in school. Wouldn't that be awesome? And as usual, the two are on the same wavelengths. I really wish they could have given us some more actual scenes of them doing stuff like these, right? I feel like there's a lot of scenes within this animation, at least within this first season, where I don't really care about. I'm much more interested in seeing how they bond to get there, how they uh, prepare using the remaining time they have until the audition. Although here we also get a rare sighting of character development. So, Arisa was originally a sort of like introvert, shy character with no friends. Now she's starting to come out of her shell, make some friends. Besides Popipa. Ah, just go, Arisa. And the famous Kanazawa Zoo. So this part is also interesting as well because again it reflects the real world voice actor of Tai, Sai. So the reason that she had this setting where she has so many pets in her home is because she actually does have 20 something rabbits and a lot of I can't remember. I think she has dogs and cats as well, and even turtles or something at her house. So another case of how the actual voice actor influenced how they made the character in the anime. You're so pure, Arisa. I was actually really surprised when in my first watch through that they didn't actually have a pillow fight. I thought that was gonna happen for sure. It's cliche, but because it's so cliche, you expect it to happen, right? And I'm still on the fence on whether I think it's a good thing that they didn't include it, or if I'm a bit disappointed that they didn't include it. Ugh, Arisa's voice gets me every time. Yeah, this face here is definitely a little strange. How can you sleep like that, Arisa? Too funny. So, like a scene like this, right? I mean, yeah, sure, it's peaceful and whatnot, but was it really necessary? Like, what did it accomplish? I would have much more preferred if we could see them actually doing some stuff together, even if it was just designing their T-shirts or something. And as usual, the BGM is great. Those are some good eyes. Hello. And by the way, I did mute the audio for these last two episodes because I found out that they are actually matching the audio now. But this song is Mae Susume, if you didn't know already, which you should. So the 3D used in this scene was actually a little bit better than. I know a lot of people don't like 3D in general. They don't like the CGI images. They would prefer to see the bands using a hand drawn form. But really, in like if you look at that scene just right there, that's how bad it was. So honestly, the 3D was even better. And you can better animate the correct animations for instrument playing as well. Like seriously, all the 2D scenes within this playing really is hard to look at. And I hate to comment on it, but it actually distracts from what is otherwise a very nice performance. So, actually, I guess I should also talk a little bit about this one as well. Uh, the seiyus actually went back to the studio and recorded another version of this song specifically for this scene. So they already had their studio version. If you listen to it carefully, again, I don't have my audio on right now, but if you really listen to it, you would find that it's different from the studio version, and it's also different from their live versions. And they specifically to try to convey a feeling of nervousness and incompleteness within this episode to give it a more authentic feel in a way. And especially in Kasumi's case, this brings up a nice little trivia that she mentioned in an interview. So actually, Kasumi during her very first live for Bandori. So Bandori currently is on, or Popipa itself is on their about to be hosting their seventh live as of this video in about a month or 2 months time, give or take. But that is counting only from when all the Popipa members were gathered. But before they were completely gathered, they actually hosted 4 lives as well. I guess you could call them a pre-debut, pre-debut lives, in a sense. So during the very first pre-debut live, when there was only Aimi and Rimi and Arisa, when they were performing, I believe it was during the encore performance of that live event, Kasumi lost her voice from singing too hard. And that is why she later mentioned that during this scene, that is why she voiced the character and sang as they did, as she did. Yeah, sorry for the silence there, but this scene was really good. Even though, it was pretty obvious that they were going to pass the audition, right? But still, she really drives home the point that music is to be performed by people who really love music. I think I'll talk about those 2 points, including the performance as well as the owner, in the after review. We have a little bit left. Party, party. And there we go. So that was episode 12, and Popipa have passed their audition to the surprise of no one, and we are going into the final live performance in the next episode. But again, for this episode, as I mentioned, within two main parts that I want to touch on. One is the performance of their song Mae Susume, as well as them passing the audition in the very end and what the owner truly wants. So as I said, they went to the studio and re-recorded this song specifically for this. It actually pains me when some people who don't know of this comment on how they felt this performance was pretty sloppy and they couldn't really sing very well and stuff. But no, that was deliberate, right? So I do like that they added this level of authenticity to the performance. And again, the little bit of trivia info where Aimee lost her voice during the first pre-debut live of BanGDream, Bandori, and so she sang this scene using her feelings of regret and remorse from that time. So I mean, you should be able to feel how her voice is a little bit different from how you hear her when she sings normally, or during in the studio versions, or in the live events. So just a little thing to a little bit piece of trivia for fun. And I guess the main part of this episode would be in regards to the audition, right? So actually, it's interesting because in my first watch of this series, again, it's no surprise that they passed the audition. I'd be flabbergasted if they didn't. Like, how are they going to end this series on a high note if they didn't pass the audition, right? That kind of not really makes sense. Uh, and I definitely feel at that time, anyways, that maybe it was too convenient that they were able to pass at the very last uh, audition, right? You can't help but think like, did the owner kind of loosen the criteria of who she would allow onto the stage or whatnot? And I mean, it's still possible, but looking back at it now, and thinking it from a more objective standpoint, like, who are what criteria are we judging them by, right? They're student bands in high school. How good can they possibly get, right? If I think back to my time when I was a student and the student bands that I've watched, most of they can't hold a candle to even, I guess, amateur bands from, I guess, college, or from people who are already out and working. Not to mention actually professional bands, right? So in terms of being just a student band, is it an acceptable performance? Maybe, maybe. Again, Kasumi's progression is a little bit unbelievable for me, but she's the protagonist, so she has some protagonist power. But I think actually, even with all that, the main thing that really stands out from this scene is the mentality of the owner, right? So even in a few episodes before, when they were talking about why the owner wanted to host these kinds of auditions, uh, they already hinted that it's not really about performance skill, right? It's about whether or not you have the passion and the heart for this, which is why she also always asked, "Have you put your all into it? Is this the best you can do?" Because let's be honest here. There's a difference between putting in hard work and putting in hard work, right? It's a difference between, okay, after school, practice 3 hours per day, versus, which seems like a lot of time already, right? 3 hours per day when you already have a full time job or you're a student, that's quite a lot of time, actually. But compared to, if you're eating and breathing and living music, as Popihoa were doing within the past, I guess, week since they resolved the situation, that's a whole nother story, right? It's on a different level. And I also kind of understand why the owner is trying to do it this way, right? Because only when you have a real passion for music would you be able to devote yourself so fully to it. And that matters during live performances. That's why, in the end, she commented that this was a very good performance, even though it very clearly sucked from a musical or technique perspective, right? Again, they were deliberately trying to sound sloppy, and they were. Like, that was by no means a good performance. But still, I mean, music wise, anyways. But still, the owner said that it was a good performance because she could feel the passion, the love for music flowing out. And I do believe that that is a very important factor. I'm sure we've all seen some performances where the bands or the artists don't really seem into it. They kind of view it as sort of like a job. They're not really enjoying it. I mean, it doesn't even have to be music. It can be anything artistic or maybe even non-artistic related. Like if you're watching a YouTuber or a streamer and it's clear that they're not really enjoying what they're doing that much, a little bit bored, a little bit disinterested, it affects how you as a audience enjoy the performance as well. So at least they got that nailed down, right? Technique is something that can maybe come through time. Like not everybody is going to be Eddie Van Halen or uh, Jimi Hendrix or something, but at least you can emit passion and you can put your technique at a high enough level to be adequate for what you're performing. So definitely on rewatch or actually thinking about it a little bit more, I can understand the perspective of the owner, and then you realize like how you could say an important figure she was to the growth of Popipa as a band as well. Like, a lot of people. I've seen a lot of comments like, "Ah, the owner is such a, such a. I don't want to say the word, but a very disagreeable woman, right?" And hurting Kasumi's feelings and making her lose her voice and blah blah blah. But as I mentioned in that episode as well, it was an important stepping stone for Popipa. It was a wall. I guess you can't really call it a stone. It's more of a wall. But once they got over that wall, they were able to reach higher levels. So, anyways, that's been enough rambling, and I guess that's all I want to say about this episode. Again, we can continue on to the next one, which is the final, and then we just have the OVA. If you haven't watched Bandori Season 2 yet, go watch it. It's great. At least the first episode is so far. I'm not sure how the story's going to go, but as long as you're a fan, you should at least watch episode 1. So, on that note, I'll see you guys next time.